guys, it's Chantel with Wildberry Quilting. So this is week 2 of the Halloween Memories Quilt Along, and we are sewing the Moonlight Quilt. If you have not picked up your book or your fabrics to start quilting along with us, don't worry, you still have plenty of time. This is a 9-week sew along. I will link Fat Quarter Shop and everything down below, so go check them out and join us. It's lots of fun. We're going to really have a beautiful quilt at the end of this. So let's go get started. All right, so step 1, we are going to be sewing 2 at a time, half square triangles with our A and our I pieces. All right, guys, I have an awesome creepy story for you guys today. I've had this story in my back pocket for, well, since last year. And I have just been on the edge of my seat wanting to share it with you guys, waiting for the next chance at a spooky sew with me. So let's hop into it. This took place in Waynesboro, Virginia, around 2015. A gentleman who goes by the name Chris lived near the Skyline Drive and rode his bike there all the time. He only ever rode during the day there, but one restless night, he decided a brisk night ride to the overlook might be just the thing he needed to help him settle in for the evening. It was around 11 p.m. when he arrived at the first overlook. The park was closed and it was late and it was pitch black. There weren't any lights or anything to light the way. Almost instantly, he had this very uncomfortable, very ominous feeling. Now, Gris is not the kind of person who is easily spooked by the dark, or really anything else for that matter. In fact, he tends to prefer the dark in many situations, as he can often spot people before they spot him. And he just prefers the solitude that one feels when it is dark. This night, it just felt different though. The darkness had a thick, deep, almost oppressive quality to it. Now, Gris has spent a great deal of time hiking and camping the Appalachian Trail. And he served 27 months in Iraq. He is all too familiar with that feeling of dread that creeps up your spine and swells in your head when someone or something has you within its sight. Something bad was coming. He mentally reassured himself that his .44 mag revolver would be enough to deal with anyone who might want to mess with him. One side of the road was the overlook, which was nearly a sheer drop. The other side is the mountain with thick, dark, untamed woods. Gris turned to face the wooded mountainside and leaned against the stone wall of the overlook. He turned over the possibilities of an inebriated or violent person attempting an attack. While he could have started his bike and pointed the headlights toward the woods, he knew that was a far more dangerous idea, as it would night blind him to everything else. A motorcycle is also far from quiet and could obscure the sounds being made by whoever or whatever is creeping the area. So he sat for a very long, anxiety-filled 10 minutes. While he did hear a few things, nothing really seemed out of place for the woods at night. However, that feeling continued to bear down on him. He finally decided it was time to leave, so he got back on his bike and rode toward the gate. Now, anyone who lives in the country knows that you need to be very careful for wildlife, especially at nighttime, and especially if you're driving through a national park, and even more so if you're on a motorcycle. He very cautiously paced himself at around 15 miles per hour, which was about half of the posted speed limit. That's when he saw it. Now, he says the term knock deer is very fitting, yet not quite accurate. He said it was like a deer that had been drawn by someone who had never actually seen a deer themselves and only had someone else's description to go by. It stood on the left side of the road, the mountain side. The eyes were the first thing to come into view because of the shine caused by the headlights. Gris describes it as easily being the largest deer he has ever seen. However, it had no antlers, which suggested this was a doe. Obviously, that is highly unusual. Beyond that, it also had, its head was not slender in the same way, the same features that deer usually have. Instead, it almost looked bovine in nature, but fixed onto the frame of a deer. The legs were far too long. If you've ever seen pictures of a maned wolf, they were like that. Just far, far too long for this deer. And the proportions of the body were odd. It was almost like the body was very barrel shaped and bulky. Now, malformed wildlife has always creeped out Gris, and I think that is very relatable. This was certainly no exception. Unfortunately, where it was standing, he had to get it to move in order to pass through the gate, or else he would have to come within feet of it. And turning around and traveling another 30 miles through the park to find another gate was completely out of the question. For obvious reasons, it would be unsafe to pass so close to it on his bike and risk slipping it. But there was the added dubious nature to its appearance, which really made him not want to get near this thing. Gris stopped and put his feet down around 50 feet away from it, and he began trying to scare it away. First, he started flashing his lights high and low, and nothing. It just sat there and stared at him. So he tried revving his engine, and again, nothing. He began yelling at it and waving his hands, and still nothing. Tried honking his very loud horn. Again, nothing. Begrudgingly, he set the kickstand and stepped off his bike. He tried yelling at it, but still, it just stood staring at him. He began to walk to the other side of the road, and he planned to grab a stick or something and toss it near this thing. trying to scare it away. But the moment he set foot in the other lane, it rose up onto its hind legs. Now, deer can stand on their hind legs for a little bit when they are fighting and such, but this thing stood standing on its hind legs, which is not typical. He froze mid-step and instinctively put his hand on his holster. He was ready to do what he needed to if this thing charged him. It took 2 jerky, unnatural steps toward him, toward the center of the lane, while still standing and staring directly at him. It suddenly began shaking its head violently back and forth like a dog that had a toy. It took one more step toward him before it began hopping. Yes, hopping. It hopped on its hind legs several times until it disappeared into the darkness on the right side of the road. He jumped back on his bike, flipped the kickstand, and turned the lights toward the side of the road where it disappeared. On that side of the road is the sheer drop. It's around 75 to 80 degrees. That is a massive drop. 90 degrees would be completely straight up and down. We are talking 75 to 80 degrees compared to the road. And this creature, its head was there, just peeking over the edge, still watching him. The drop itself in this area is 40 to 50 feet. So there is no way it was standing at the base of the mountain. At this point, Gris threw caution to the wind. He tore out of there. I completely understand because I think I'd need a new pair of pants at that point. That was the first and last time Gris went on Skyline Drive at night. I cannot blame him. I think that is one place I will be staying away from at nighttime. I might go out there during the daytime sometime because it sounds like an interesting area. It sounds very beautiful too, but hopefully I won't have any encounters with any hopping, barrel-chested, scary deer. Giant scary deer. If you haven't hit like and subscribe yet, make sure that you do that. This is going to be a 9-week series for this Halloween Memories quilt, and this is only week 2, so there is still a lot of time to jump in and join up with the quilt along. And all of the hashtags and everything will be down in the description box, along with my affiliate link to FatQuartershop if you're interested in picking up this book or any of these awesome fabrics to join along. All right, guys, that's it for today. I hope you had a fun time and enjoyed our spooky stories. And send me over any of your spooky stories that you might like me to tell on here. I would love to see them. I'd love to read them, and I would love to tell them. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I will see you guys again next time. Bye.